revealed how my sister's cheap date night gear turned out to be a 2 million military treasure. Dave stared at the clutter in their garage, the shadows of old bikes and dusty boxes looming like ghosts from the past. What a mess, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. Bills piled high on the kitchen counter weighed on his shoulders like an anvil. He glanced at his sister, Lily, who was practically buzzing with excitement. After years of being the responsible elder brother, he was tired, but she was such a bright spark that her energy was hard to resist. "Simon, Dave," she exclaimed, pulling at his sleeve. "This garage sale could really help the veterans and maybe give us a little breathing room." He sighed. They lived in the cozy suburb of Maplewood, where neighbors shared smiles and backyard barbecues. It should be felt comfortable, but lately, the financial pressure stretched like an elastic band, ready to snap. "All right, let's start with the usual stuff first, then we'll tackle the rest," he relented. As they dug through old clothes and forgotten treasures, they stumbled upon a dusty box tucked away in the corner. "What is this?" Lily asked, her curiosity piqued. Inside were old military items, uniforms, medals, and dog tags. "This is cool. We should include it." She beamed, holding up a frayed jacket. Dave rolled his eyes, dismissing the worn-out relics. "Lily, nobody wants old junk. Let us just stick to what people want." But a flicker of her enthusiasm captured his attention, and after some back and forth, he finally agreed. "Fine, let us add them to the sale, but I still think it's a waste of time." As Saturday approached, the anticipation in Maplewood grew. Cars lined the street, and familiar faces drifted by, exchanging laughter and chatter. The siblings exchanged playful banter as they set up their table, yet underneath, a current of anxiety simmered. Dave loved his sister fiercely, but felt the heavy responsibility of caring for her dreams. Meanwhile, Lily dreamed of a life filled with color and adventure, far beyond the squeeze of their budget. Amidst the hustle, an unexpected buyer, clad in dark sunglasses, showed particular interest in one of the military pieces. "What do you know about this?" he asked, his voice gravelly. Whispers of its value lingered in the air, escalating the excitement. A 100 bill had been nothing to sneeze at, but the murmurs hinted at something much more, a reality neither Dave nor Lily could comprehend. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As dusk approached, pulsating with the hum of neighborhood chatter, Dave's heart raced when a historian called him about verifying the uniform's authenticity. He felt a cold sweat brush against his brow as he signed off, thinking little of it. But when the historian arrived, the atmosphere charged with suspense. The moment he examined the uniform, the breath seemed to be ripped from the room. "This is worth a fortune," he announced, his eyes widening in disbelief, sending shockwaves through Dave and Lily. Suddenly, their financial struggles transformed into a whirlwind of possibility and threat. Would they clamber up the social ladder, or fracturing the bond that had kept them afloat? As doubt and ambition clashed, the siblings faced a life-altering moment, filled with all the promises and pitfalls of newfound wealth. Just as they were beginning to grasp their worth, a rival buyer emerged, eyes gleaming with greed. As waves of tension crashed around them, leaving their family legacy hanging in the balance. Dave and Lily were left wondering, could this treasure solidify their dreams, or would it tear apart the very fabric of their lives? The air crackled with uncertainty as Lily gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white. "What does he mean, a fortune?" she whispered, glancing between Dave and the historian, who was rummaging through the boxes as though searching for hidden gems. Dave's mind spun. One moment, they were just siblings trying to scrape together some cash, and the next, they were standing on the brink of something monumental. "I don't know, Lil," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to keep our heads on straight. This could complicate everything. The historian straightened up, his eyebrows knitting together as he held up a tarnished medal. This isn't just any uniform. It belonged to a decorated officer. This could change everything for you. The weight of his words sank in deeper than the offers of cash they had expected to hear that day. Suddenly, the dark-suited buyer re-emerged from the crowd, a sly smirk painted across his face. "I have plans for those items," he said, his voice smooth yet menacing. "You'd be wise to consider selling now." This historical significance could easily lead to bidding wars from collectors. Dave felt a shiver run down his spine. The desire to protect Lily surged within him. "We're not selling anything to you," he shot back, surprising himself with the assertiveness in his voice. But the doubt returned quickly. Did they truly understand the value at stake? Lily stepped closer to Dave, her eyes wide. "What should we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. It was rare for Dave to see her so vulnerable. "Let us think this through," he replied, taking a fierce breath. The garage sale had just been a side hustle, a good deed for veterans, and now it was morphing into a wild auction of chaos. "We should contact someone qualified." "An auction house, perhaps?" "An auction house?" Lily echoed, her enthusiasm peaking. "Dave, do you think they'd sell it for us? We could finally afford my dream project, traveling the world for charity work." Dave's heart ached. He wanted nothing more than to help her achieve her dreams. But was this the way to do it? Rapidly flipping through options in his mind, he fought back his instinct to say no and opted for a more cautious approach. "We need to make sure this is legit, Lil. We don't want to get scammed or make a wrong choice." The dark-suited buyer hooted softly, pretending to be amused. "You're going to waste time with checks and evaluations? I can pay you right now and save you all the trouble." Dave clenched his fists. There was ambition in the air, a heady mix of greed, possibility, and an undercurrent of fear. They faced not only their financial troubles, but also the risk of losing their connection as siblings. "Stand firm," Dave whispered to Lily, locking his gaze with hers. "We're in this together, no matter what that sly ball offers." Just then, the historian cut in, eyes darting back and forth. "Before you make any decisions, I suggest you think about what this means for your family legacy. There are stories tied to these items that need to be honored." Suddenly, from the back of the throng, someone yelled, "Hey, what is going on over there?" A spotlight of curiosity cast over them, igniting a ripple of intrigue. The mountains of uncertainty loomed over them, each option radiating consequences. With both dreams and fears colliding, questions loomed just as large. What would happen if they decided to let go of this treasure? And what if they chose to fight? As they weighed the choices ahead, a different kind of tension stirred. One of hope, yet tinged with fear of what the future held. A decision had to be made, and time was slipping away. Would they claim their newfound wealth, or would it shatter the bond they cherished? The crowd continued to murmur, drawing closer, and as the pressure thickened, another figure emerged from the back, catching Dave's eye. Their mom. She had been quiet, but her expression held an intensity that sent a chill through him. What message did she bring? Would this be the final twist they never saw coming? Dave's heart raced as he locked eyes with their mother, the weight of her presence instantly shifting the air in the room. She stood there, poised yet uncertain, as if she were the delicate thread holding their family together. "Mom?" he called out, his voice threading through the chatter like a ribbon in the wind. She hesitated, glancing at the boxes filled with whispers of history, then focused intently on him. "I'm here for a reason, and it's time for the truth," she said firmly, her words sharp yet a balm to his anxiety. The crowd continued to murmur, rustling with anticipation, but all he could see was the flicker of concern in her eyes. "What truth?" Lily asked, sensing the shift in energy. The historian's expression shifted from curiosity to concern as he sensed the weight of the moment. "Those items, they're not just pieces of old fabric or metal," Mom said, stepping closer to them, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "They belong to your grandfather. He was a hero, and he made some hard choices for this family." Dave's breath hitched. Memories flooded back of family stories shared on quiet evenings, tales of bravery tinged with sacrifice. "You never told us," he breathed, glancing at Lily, who shared his wide-eyed surprise. I didn't want to burden you with the past, she continued, her voice trembling slightly. But with everything happening now, you deserve to know the truth behind it all. Those medals, that uniform, they tell stories of valor, of battles fought for something greater than ourselves. They deserve recognition. As the weight of her words sank in, emotions surged within him: pride, sadness, and a fierce instinct to preserve their legacy. The dark-suited buyer seemed to sense the intensity shifting, leaning forward as if trying to catch some of their unfolding history. You're telling me we might be sitting on a family treasure? Lily asked. Hope glimmered through her uncertainty, lighting her face. Exactly, Mom replied, catching a tear that threatened to spill. You two could honor his memory and use these items to tell our family story to the world. With a cautious mind, Dave glanced around, noting the crowd's rapt attention. The historian seemed invigorated, going through the boxes with renewed energy, ready to document the family's legacy. What should we do next? Dave thought aloud, glancing at his mother, the dark-suited buyer forgotten for the moment. He could feel Lily's excitement bubbling beneath the surface, her desire to empower others driving her forward. You'll need to contact someone who can help you authenticate these pieces properly, Mom said, her voice regaining strength. And if you decide to go public, do it right. Honor what these things represent, and you might just inspire others. As the plan formed in his mind, a mix of excitement and trepidation flooded his chest. The historian pulled out more items, holding up a faded photograph of a familiar face from their childhood stories. Dave's heart pounded. Could this man, so etched into his memories, lead them to something greater? But the shadow of the dark-suited buyer buzzed at the edges. You're wasting time with family legends, he spat, clearly challenged by their sudden resolve. Those items don't have the world's worth if you don't take what I'm offering. Watch us, Dave said, his anger simmering just below the surface. He felt brave, ignited by the responsibility of both family and dreams. We will do this on our terms. Lily moved closer to him, her determination fusing with his. If it means honoring our family's past and being a light for others, then that's what we'll do. The crowd shifted, engrossed by the newfound energy of hope wrapping around Dave and Lily like a warm embrace. But just then, a voice rang out from the back, drowning their confidence in a wave of confusion. Wait. Someone needs to see this. What had they unearthed, and would it change their fate again? The heartbeat of the moment hung heavy in the air, full of potential and risk. The crowd hushed as the shocked voice echoed through the room. Dave turned towards the source, his chest tightening. A tall figure stood at the back, eyes wide as he held up a crumpled piece of paper, waving it like a flag signaling a crucial discovery. What is it? Someone in the front row shouted, urgency tinging their tone. Dave could feel his own heart racing, the tension in the room thickening. With a mix of eagerness and dread, the stranger pushed through the throng. I found something that relates to your grandfather. He reached Dave and Lily, panting lightly but filled with fervor. The historian's brows furrowed, his curiosity piqued as he reaffirmed his position, leaning in to get a better look. The man unfolded the document, revealing a faded summary of a military operation gone awry, a mission that involved secret strategies, bravery, and the very artifacts that lay before them. This is a record from the war. It mentions your grandfather directly, he exclaimed, eyes darting between the two siblings. Dave's breath caught in his throat as he scanned the fragile page. Names, dates, and descriptions spilled forth, each word igniting missing pieces of their family history. Are you serious? His voice trembled, buoyed by sudden hope. Yes. It connects him to medals awarded posthumously for valor, things that have been buried in dust both literally and figuratively. The man's excitement was contagious, a bright flame against the otherwise quiet chaos surrounding them. Lily's gasp echoed in Dave's ears. What does this mean? She whispered, leaning closer to read. It means those medals are worth more than joy. They carry a legacy that could change how people view your family, your story. There was a glimmer in the man's eyes, a promise of something greater. The historian nodded, clearly recognizing the significance. This changes everything. Together we can honor your grandfather's sacrifices and possibly. He paused, the weight of his next words hanging in the air, potentially secure his rightful place in history. At that moment, the dark-suited buyer's voice sliced through the newfound excitement. "You're still making a mistake. These things are worthless without your cash offer?" Dave's voice rang out, a mixture of defiance and emerging confidence clouding his mind. Anger surged within him. "You don't get it. This is more than money. This is about who we are." The room felt electrified. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, gathering weight, grounding them in a shared purpose. Each person's gaze was a promise of support, a pledge to help revive the essence of their family's legacy. "Let us get this authenticated," Lily said, determination thrumming in her words. "Let us show the world who our grandfather really was, what courage looks like." As they began to formulate a plan, excitement tinged with anxiety flooded through him. Suddenly, everything felt bigger than a few dusty boxes. They looked at their mother, who was wiping her tears, a light of pride sparking in her eyes. Just then, the crowd shifted as someone from the side spoke up again, their voice quaking with authority. "I know a museum curator, someone who can shed light on these artifacts. If we band together, we can do something monumental." Dave and Lily exchanged a glance, realization dawning on them. It wasn't just a family story they were reclaiming, it was a narrative waiting to inspire countless others. Their journey had shifted. Instead of searching for money, they were now embarking on a quest for recognition, validation, and truth. But as they took a breath to celebrate this turn, the dark-suited buyer stepped forward, a menacing glare fixed on them. "You think this is some fairy tale? You're playing with something far greater than you understand. And I want to just stand by." The stakes had been raised, the tension had escalated. What dangers would they face in their pursuit? What further truths lay beneath the surface? Everything was spiraling into a challenge much bigger than they had anticipated. The atmosphere shifted as the dark-suited buyer loomed closer, his presence a shadow over the two siblings. Dave felt his pulse quicken. The excitement that once surged through him now twisted into a knot of anxiety. What did this man know that they didn't? "Listen," Dave said, stepping forward, determined to take control of the moment. "This isn't just about money or artifacts. It's about legacy, family pride. You can't put a price tag on that." His voice trembled slightly but held steady. The buyer chuckled, a sound low and menacing. "You think that matters to anyone in this room? People want shiny objects to hang on their walls, not ghost stories from the past." Dave felt Lily's hand on his arm, a gentle reminder to breathe, to keep going. She squeezed gently, her eyes fierce with anger. "You have no idea who our grandfather was, what he stood for. This is our chance to bring his story back to life. We're not backing down." The crowd began to murmur again, a wave of supportive whispers sweeping around them. Each nod, each encouraging glance fortified their resolve. They were not alone. People were rallying behind them. But the dark-suited man wasn't finished. "Go ahead, take your tales of valor. Just know that history isn't written by the brave, it's written by those with the power. And I have that power." His words hung in the air like poison. Dave could see how the others started to fidget, glancing back and forth between his family and the looming threat. "Wait," Lily said, her voice cutting through the tension. "You said you knew a curator. How do we know you're not just trying to intimidate us into selling?" The buyer hesitated, caught by surprise. "I have sources, connections not just to museums, but to the people who make decisions." Dave could sense the tension rise again. Fists clenched in pockets and shoulders stiffened. He needed something to unite them, to rally the crowd. "Let us take this to the next level," he said, his heart racing. "Let us get that authentication done. We don't just need to prove our grandfather's bravery, we need to show everyone that it matters now. It matters to our family, and it should matter to everyone here." As he spoke, a spark ignited among the onlookers. A few people in front began to applaud gently, and soon, the sound grew until it was a heartbeat of unity echoing through the room. "Together," Lily echoed, her voice resonating with strength. "Let us show them what we've got." Dave smiled at his sister, grateful for her unwavering spirit. "We can do this. But we need to move fast and stick together." Just then, as if the universe conspired against them, the lights flickered. A low rumble of thunder echoed outside, and a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows. The crowd gasped, and a chilling realization swept through the space. "We need to leave now," someone shouted. Heads turned, panic starting to take hold. The buyer stepped back, an odd gleam of satisfaction in his eyes. "We'll see if you can hold onto your fairy tale with storms on the horizon, kids," he taunted, the hint of a smirk on his face as he turned to leave. Dave felt his heart drop as the fear clung to him like a thick fog. They had started a journey, yet now it threatened to unravel. Would they find the answers they desperately sought? Before he could voice his next thoughts, the lights surged back into full brightness, and someone near the back shouted, "We should stick together. We can't let him break our spirit." And, just like that, a fire ignited again, but as Dave looked around, he couldn't shake off the lingering feeling that this was bigger than family history. What had they stepped into, and how deep did the rabbit hole go? The question thundered in his mind as he clung to the moment of unity. Their next step would mark the beginning of a far deeper struggle than he ever imagined possible. Would they have the strength to face whatever lay ahead? The moment felt electric, as if the very air around them crackled with potential. Panic lingered like mist, weaving through the crowd, but Dave and Lily held on to each other firmly. Faces in the throng were still painted with disbelief. They needed a plan, and they needed it quickly. "Okay, everyone, listen up." Dave raised his arms, trying to command attention despite the lingering chaos. "I need your voices, your support. We have to stay together to make this work. We can't let that man intimidate us." The crowd quieted, catching the urgency in his tone. A middle-aged woman near the front stepped closer, her brow furrowed with determination. "You're right. Let us gather our facts. We need to research the authenticity of those artifacts. If we prove their worth, he can't touch us." "Yes!" someone shouted from the back, a young man with a hopeful glint in his eyes. "If your grandfather's story is true, it's a part of history. Let us find the documents, photographs, anything we can." "Exactly. Everyone here has a stake in this," spoke Lily, her voice robust and clear. "Those of us with family ties, those of us who understand the value of history, it's time we unite. We need to gather and brainstorm. Let us split into groups. Some of us can search for records, others can spread the word. We need to prepare a powerful argument against this man." As their strategy took shape, Dave felt a new surge of hope. They were no longer just siblings fighting for their heritage. They were a movement. The weight of uncertainty still hung over his heart, but there was strength in numbers. Each enthusiastic voice, each nod of agreement, breathed more life into their fight. With a determined spirit, the crowd began to disperse into action. Dave could see teams forming, people rushing to their phones and laptops. They were diving into the past, digging through archives, calling museums, all united by a shared belief in the integrity of their family's story. His heart thumped rapidly as he caught Lily's eyes. They shared a charged moment of clarity. Both knew that this was only the beginning, the flicker of a flame that could light a path through the darkness. Yet, even in the midst of empowerment, unease gnawed at the edges of Dave's thoughts. What if the information they found only deepened the shadows cast by the buyer? What if he was right that power and wealth dictated truth? "Lily," he said cautiously, pulling her aside for a moment. "What do we do if we can't prove the artifacts are significant? I can't help but feel we might be getting into something deeper." Before she could answer, her phone buzzed loudly in her pocket, cutting through the tension. She hesitated, then pulled it out, her face shifting from determination to confusion. It's a message from Mom." The world around them faded momentarily as she read, and Dave saw her expression change to one of concern. "She says she's heard from someone who knows that buyer. I think he's part of something bigger than we thought. If he's involved, we might be in danger." His stomach clenched at the thought. What more had they walked into? The stakes grew higher, their mission more perilous. "Let us find Mom," he said, urgency coloring his tone. "We need to figure out exactly what we're up against. We can't falter now." Determined, they began to weave back against the frenetic energy of the crowd. But as they made their way through, another thought taunted him. What if uncovering the truth put them in the path of a storm they couldn't weather? As they stepped out into the gusting winds of the brewing storm, One question loomed above all else. Would the fight for legacy bring them closer together or tear them apart as they delved deeper into a world of secret powers and untold dangers? The streets were alive with wind and chaos, mirroring the turmoil in Dave's heart as he and Lily pushed their way through the crowd. Every gust felt like a whisper of warning, a reminder that they were stepping into uncharted territory. He glanced at Lily, her brow furrowed, eyes set with determination, but underneath it all, he saw fear flickering like a dying flame. "Do you think Mom will know more?" Dave asked, his voice barely rising above the tumult of voices behind them. "I hope so," Lily replied, her tone tight. "If she has contacts, then she might have ideas on how to handle this fire." As they reached the corner where the old bookstore stood, a familiar comfort washed over Dave. It had always been a safe haven for them, a place filled with stories of adventure, bravery, and family ties that seemed stronger than anything the world could throw at them. But today, it felt more like a fortress that might be laid siege to. Inside, they quickly spotted their mother sitting at a small table, surrounded by stacks of dusty books. Her face lit up when she saw them, but the smile faltered when she noticed the tension radiating off them. "Are you two okay?" she asked, concern knitting her brow. "We need to talk," Lily urged, pulling out a chair and sinking into it. "I just got a message from you about the buyer." "What do you know?" Mom's eyes darkened. "I've been doing some digging myself. I reached out to an old friend who works in art recovery." She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "If what I heard is true, that man is involved in something very dangerous. He's known for using intimidation and threats to get his hands on artifacts, and there's talk of underground dealings." Dave felt cold dread settle in his stomach. "What does that mean for us? If he wants those artifacts, what's stopping him from?" "I don't know, taking them by force?" Mom hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. "He has resources. Connections that go beyond this town, even. It's not just about artifacts to him, it's about power and control. If he wants something, he will stop at nothing to get it." The enormity of her words washed over Dave like icy water. The artifacts were not just pieces of history, they were a treasure map leading to a battleground. And somehow, they had become the unwilling pawns. "Then we need to protect them," Lily interjected, determination rising in her voice. "We need a team. We can't let him win. He won't win." "Not if we don't let him," Mom replied, straightening her spine, her fierce spirit igniting. "We'll find allies. We'll reach out to historians, collectors, anyone who could stand with us." Dave felt a flicker of hope amidst the storm. Maybe they weren't as alone as they thought. If history had taught them anything, it was that people cared about legacy. Let us not just wait for him to make a move. We can be proactive. We can hold a meeting, rally the community, make this public. "Exactly," Lily said, her eyes lighting up with determination. "We make our stand not just for us, but for everyone who has ever felt powerless." For the first time since this chaos began, Dave felt a sense of unity form in the room. It was palpable, filling the air like a spring breeze. Yet the lingering doubt gnawed at him. It was one thing to prepare, it was another to challenge an opponent who wouldn't hesitate to play dirty. As they huddled together in a circle, strategizing their next steps, a chilling thought entered Dave's mind. What if he already knows? What if he is watching us right now? The wind outside howled, echoing the uncertainty in his heart. They were racing toward a confrontation that could change everything. Would their plans gather the strength they needed, or would they find themselves facing forces that threatened to drive them apart forever? With that, the stakes had never been higher. What would they uncover next as they delved into the murky waters of this perilous fight? And who could they trust when it seemed the very ground beneath them was shifting? The bookstore felt too quiet now, as if the walls were holding their breath. Dave looked around at the familiar shelves, filled with countless stories, yet this moment felt entirely different. This wasn't about tales of bravery anymore. It was about their own lives intertwined with the very history they'd always revered. Lily shuffled her papers, her mind racing. What is our first step? We need to create awareness, draw people in who care about this stuff as much as we do. Outside, the wind whooshed past, a reminder of just how tenuous their situation was. Mom nodded, determination returning to her gaze. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed. I can reach out to a few contacts I know from the museum. They have connections in the community. They want to help if they understand what's at stake. Dave felt the weight of anticipation settling around them like fog. But what if they back down? What if the buyer intimidates them more than he intimidates us? That's why we must present a united front, Lily insisted. If we're honest about what we've found, if we show our passion, maybe we'll spark something in others. Maybe. The idea swirled in Dave's mind like smoke. They needed to gather strength from the community, but what if the community turned on them? What if they only fueled the buyer's fire? Mom broke the tension, placing a reassuring hand on Dave's shoulder. We can't think like that. We have to trust people. There are still good ones out there. Just then, the door swung open, and the chime above rang out, startling them. A tall figure stepped inside, shadowed by the late afternoon sun. It was Mark, a friend from high school, but tonight he seemed older, heavier. His usual carefree vibe was shrouded in worry. "What's going on?" Mark asked, concern lining his voice. He glanced back towards the door as if expecting trouble to follow. "We're in some deep water," Lily explained, her eyes igniting with urgency. "It's about a buyer who's after some artifacts, and he doesn't play nice. We need help." Mark's eyes widened, his brows knitting together. "I heard some whispers about that guy. What do you need from me?" "In addition to awareness, we need brainstormers," Dave replied. "Any ideas you have on how to engage the community? How to uncover the buyer without falling into his trap?" "I might have a few contacts of my own, a community art group," Mark said, tension easing from his shoulders. "They know local history and they're passionate." If we put our heads together just then, the wind picked up outside again, thrashing against the windows, cutting through their conversation like a warning. Mark's brow furrowed. "You guys sure this is safe?" "It's as safe as it can be. We need to act fast," Lily urged. "Every moment we waste gives him an advantage." They quickly outlined an action plan, fear mingling with hope as their voices rose and filled the dimly lit room. Names were tossed around like confetti, potential allies and community members who could join the fight. Dave began to feel a certainty growing within him. They could do this. But deep inside, a nagging thought clawed at him. What if their pleas fell on deaf ears? What if they stirred the beast instead of rallying the troops? The weight of this impending venture pressed upon him, heavier than any artifact they were trying to protect. Just as they were wrapping up their plans, Lily's phone buzzed ominously, vibrating against the table. She glanced at the screen, her breath hitching as she read the message. It's him." Her voice dropped to a whisper. Dave's heart raced. What had they just unleashed? What would happen next if the buyer was closer than they ever imagined? They needed to prepare for a confrontation they didn't even know was coming. Dave's heart thudded in his chest, the words on Lily's screen casting a shadow over their newfound determination. His mind raced. What did he say? Lily's hands trembled as she turned the screen towards them. It's a threat, plain and simple. He knows we're onto him. He says he's already in town and will be watching us closely. He won't hesitate to crush anyone who stands in his way. What do we do? Mark's voice held a mixture of disbelief and dread. Every second felt heavy with the reality of their situation. Mom's resolve solidified again. We stick to the plan. We don't show fear. If anything, we act like we're moving forward. That'll give him less power over us. Dave searched their faces. He wanted to believe in Mom's reassurance, but doubt gnawed at his insides. But how can we be sure he won't retaliate? We need to think about our safety. This is real, guys. Lily moved closer to him, her eyes shining with determination. Dave, if we don't stand up to him, who will? We've got to fight. We aren't just protecting those artifacts anymore. We're fighting for our community, for our family's legacy, every person who believes in the importance of preserving history. Mark nodded, a fierce fire igniting. We have allies. We can tell them about the buyer, what he's really after. The more people that know, the harder it'll be for him to manipulate us. As they rallied around the idea, a spark ignited in Dave's heart. Maybe they were stronger than he thought. Maybe they wouldn't have to face this battle alone. They dove into planning, jotting down names of everyone who could uplift their fight. Friends, artists, historians, each person was a possible lifeline. The energy in the bookstore shifted. What felt like a desperate plea transformed into a determined march toward hope. As the sun dipped lower outside, a golden light filtered through the dusty windows. Dave could almost see their vision taking shape in that light, a town united, standing firm against a storm. Getting the community involved is essential, Mom said, but we also need to protect ourselves. Is there a way to keep watch? We can't let him intimidate us. I can set up a rotating schedule, Mark offered. A few nights on patrol, just to keep an eye out for anything strange. We can spread the word at the art group meeting this weekend. What if this guy shows up at the meeting? Lily interjected, her brow furrowing with concern. He won't know if we're prepared for him, Dave replied. If we stay alert, we can counter anything he tries. The thought of their plan solidified his resolve, pushing away the fears that lingered at the periphery. As they wrapped up their strategies, the wind outside picked up again, a whistling howl that mirrored the uncertainty hanging in the air. They exchanged nervous glances. The stakes were rising, and they would have to rise with them. Suddenly, the door swung open again, this time with unexpected force. The heavy metal bell rattled against the doorframe as a figure stepped into the dim light. The tension in the room thickened instantly. It was a tall man, dressed in dark clothing, a heavy coat flaring around him. His face was obscured by shadows, but the predatory glint in his eyes sent chills down Dave's spine. I hear you've been asking questions. The man's voice was low, dripping with menace. Dave's breath caught in his throat. This was it. The confrontation they'd been dreading had arrived unannounced. What would they do now that their enemy had stepped into the light? Would they stand and fight, or would fear take over? As the man continued to watch them with an unsettling smirk, Dave felt the weight of the moment pressing heavier than ever. Dave's heart thundered in his chest as the figure stepped forward, the dim light casting long shadows across the room. You think you can challenge me? The dark-suited man sneered, his voice smooth like silk but heavy with danger. You're out of your league, kids. Lily stepped in front of Dave instinctively, her jaw set in defiance. We're not scared of you, she declared, her voice strong but laced with tremors. Dave felt a swell of pride mixed with fear. That spark of courage was exactly what they needed to face the lurking storm. Mark moved closer, shifting into an instinctual protective stance. We're not backing down. You've threatened our family, and we won't let that happen. The crowd's collective tension buzzed in the air. The moment felt suspended, a battle of wills between ambition and fear. The man chuckled, waving his hand dismissively. You really think your community will rise against me? I have resources far beyond your imagination. You're just kids playing hero. But something glinted in Dave's chest, a light igniting amidst the darkness. We're not just kids. We have a history, a legacy. And we'll protect it, no matter what you throw at us. With those words, he felt the energy shift. The room, once filled with trepidation, now pulsed with the heartbeat of a collective resolve. People in the corners began to whisper encouragement. The momentum was shifting in their favor. Your threats don't scare us, Lily added, her voice gaining strength. People care about family stories. They care about our grandfather's legacy, and we're not letting you drown that out with your games. Games? The man's expression faltered, the fleeting flicker of doubt giving way to anger. You have no idea what you're in for. Yet there was something in his eyes, now a hint of uncertainty, as he realized how united the community had become around Dave and Lily. Mark took a bold step forward. We've got history on our side, and we'll prove it. We'll get the artifacts authenticated and share their stories. Let us see if you can handle that. The dark-suited man inhaled sharply, the moment spinning with defiance and the realization that they were no longer alone. The doubts he once cast turned into anxiety now that their voices filled the room, surrounding him like a fortress. A shift began to ripple through the people gathered, neighbors with their eyes shining with newfound resolve. We're with you, someone shouted, sparking approval around the room. Dave felt that energy wrap around him like armor. The more they spoke, the more those walls that had once felt so isolating grew strong and protective. You think you can take what's ours? He challenged the buyer, confidence washing over his words like warmth. This isn't just about artifacts, it's about identity. Lily turned to her brother, a radiant smile pulling at her lips, her bravery resonating through the air. Every person here knows how important this is to us, to the community. And we'll not let someone like you tear us apart. Enough. The man shouted, his voice cracking like thunder. Keep your community. Keep your stories. But I will make my move, and when I do, you won't know what hit you. He turned sharply, storming out of the store, the sound of his footsteps echoing ominously behind him. The door swung shut with a loud thud, and a hush fell over the crowd. Dave felt the rush of adrenaline coursing through him, as everyone exchanged wide-eyed glances filled with awe and fear mixed together. Lily took a deep breath, breaking the silence. We can't let that intimidate us. We have to act before he makes a move. We build our support now, and we make our plans. Mark nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. We gather everyone, work on those artifacts, and we start laying the groundwork for our community rally. He doesn't stand a chance if we come together. The realization settled deep within Dave. This wasn't just a fight against one man. It was their mission to honor their grandfather, to unite for a cause greater than any of their individual fears. He felt anchored by purpose, and that was worth more than anything that dark-suited man could throw at them. As the community began to roll into action, Dave shared a look with Lily. They had faced the storm together, and they would continue to do so. The pulse of hope beat between them, and a growing light pushed through the shadows of uncertainty. Let us show them who we really are, Dave stated, his heart racing but steady. The voices of their family and community echoed behind them, and they took their first steps toward reclaiming their story. As they moved forward together, they knew their legacy was finally beginning to shine, destined to inspire others just as it had inspired them. Now more than ever, it was time to act. It was their moment to rise. You need to subscribe now if you want to see how this journey transforms not just them, but everyone around them. Leave a like now to fuel our fight against doubt and keep our community spirit alive. Comment below on how you feel about this emotional turn of events and share instantly this story with at least 5 friends who need to see true courage in action. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support could ignite the flames of our legacy.